The great chamber of the Galactic Council was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. It stretched wider than a city square, lined with tall silver pillars that rose like frozen trees of light. The ceiling shimmered as if the stars themselves had been captured and set above the heads of those gathered. Every seat in the chamber was filled by envoys, commanders, and rulers from across the stars. Creatures of shapes and colors beyond human imagination watched in silence, their eyes glowing, their voices murmuring in tones that carried the weight of entire civilizations. At the center stood a single human, Daniel, Earth's chosen envoy. He wore no armor, carried no weapon, and spoke without the aid of machines to alter his tone. His presence seemed small compared to the towering forms of scaled leaders, winged delegates, and crystalline beings whose bodies sparkled like fractured glass. Yet despite his size, Daniel did not waver. He had been chosen not for strength of body but for strength of spirit. The council gathered to decide Earth's place in the galaxy. Humanity had discovered faster than light travel only a few decades ago. In that short span, they had moved with speed and boldness that unsettled older civilizations. Many races saw Earth as young and untested, a people who should accept guidance and pay tribute. Daniel's mission was to make clear that Earth would enter as an equal, not as a subject. When his name was called, Daniel stepped forward to the speaking circle, a platform of light that rose gently beneath his feet. The murmur of voices quieted, and the chamber turned its attention to the human. Honored Council, Daniel began, his voice steady. I come not to plead but to speak with respect. Humanity is new to the stars, yes, but we bring with us the lessons of struggle, of unity, and of hope. We seek to join the Council of Civilizations as partners, not as servants. A ripple moved through the chamber. Some envoys tilted their heads with interest. Others whispered among themselves with tones of disapproval. A tall figure of dark metal leaned forward, its eyes burning blue. It spoke in a voice like thunder. Human envoy, you speak boldly for a species that has only just taken to the stars. Why should this council treat you as an equal, when your fleets are few and your worlds are young? Daniel raised his head, meeting the gaze of the towering figure without fear. Because equality is not given by age or size. Equality is earned by will. Humanity may be young, but we do not bow. We do not break. We stand. Some laughed at the boldness. Others shifted uneasily. A being of crystal leaned closer, its voice chiming like bells. Your words are strong, but words are wind. What proof do you offer that humanity belongs among us? Daniel thought of Earth, the blue oceans, the green lands, the millions of people who lived under the same sky. He thought of the centuries of conflict and the hard lessons that had taught humanity the value of peace earned through struggle. He thought of the unity forged not by fear but by hope for a future greater than the past. We offer the proof of endurance, Daniel said. We have survived against storms and fire, against hunger and war, against every force that tried to break us. We carry no empire behind us, only one world, yet it is enough. For when humanity rises, we rise together. The chamber fell silent. Even those who mocked paused to hear the human's words. For a moment, the vast gathering seemed to lean closer, listening to the conviction in his voice. Daniel stood alone, but his presence filled the chamber as if the strength of all humanity stood with him. Yet not all were moved. In the shadows of the council seats, certain leaders exchanged looks of displeasure. To them, humanity's defiance was not inspiring but dangerous. If one young world could speak with such boldness, what might happen if others followed the same path? To those who sought control, Daniel's words were not a promise of partnership but a spark of rebellion. A voice rose from the upper chamber, sharp and cold. The human speaks of standing, but what is a single world compared to the weight of the council? A child should not demand a throne beside its elders. Daniel turned toward the voice. He did not speak with anger, but his words carried firm strength. A child grows. And when that child has walked through fire and still stands, it deserves to be heard. Humanity asks for no throne. We ask only for a place where our voice is not silenced. Once again silence followed, heavier this time. The council had heard many voices across the ages, but few had spoken with such unshaken resolve. Some envoys looked at Daniel with respect, others with suspicion. The chamber seemed to shift like a tide, uncertain which way it would flow. Daniel did not know what the final judgment would be. He knew only that his duty was to stand, to speak with honor, and to carry the pride of Earth into the heart of the galaxy. And so he stood tall in the circle of light, one human against 1,000 stars, unbending and unafraid. The chamber of the Galactic Council remained quiet after Daniel finished speaking. His words hung in the air like a flame, small but steady, refusing to be put out. Many envoys shifted in their seats, some thoughtful, some disapproving. For a brief moment it seemed the council might debate his words with fairness. But then, the balance of power turned. From the higher circle of seats, a tall envoy of the Valen Empire rose. The Valens were known for their strength and pride, and their fleets stretched across dozens of systems. Their leader, a being with dark silver skin and piercing golden eyes, looked down at Daniel with no warmth. This human speaks as if his world is equal to ours, the Valen declared, his voice carrying across the chamber. But equality must be earned with centuries of rule and the weight of countless victories. A young world has no right to demand such a place. Several others nodded, their approval clear. A low hum filled the chamber as other voices joined, some calling for caution, others for punishment. Daniel remained calm, his hands steady at his sides. "I did not come to demand," Daniel said, his voice clear, "I came to remind. Every civilization began as young and untested. If youth is a crime, then every world here has once been guilty." His words sparked a wave of whispers, but the Valen envoy did not smile. His eyes narrowed, sharp as blades. "You twist words, human. You bring defiance into this sacred chamber. The council cannot allow such arrogance to grow." At once, a group of allied envoys joined the Valen. They spoke quickly, pressing their case. They argued that humanity's boldness was dangerous, that if one young race could stand against the council now, others might follow. The chamber filled with debate, but Daniel soon realized the tide was turning against him. The voices of support were too few. Those who saw wisdom in his words remained silent, fearing the power of the larger empires. And so the judgment began to form, not from reason but from fear and pride. The council's presiding figure, a being of crystal light known as the Arbiter, raised its shimmering hand. Silence fell. Its voice rang out like glass struck by a hammer, calm yet final. "The council has heard the human envoy. The council has also heard the doubts of its members. It is the decision of this body that the human envoy has shown disrespect to the unity of the council. The verdict is guilt. The sentence is termination." The chamber gasped. Even those who had opposed Daniel shifted uneasily at the harshness of the judgment. Termination was rare, reserved for envoys who carried weapons or spoke in open threat. Daniel had done neither. Yet the arbiter's voice carried no hesitation. Daniel stood still. His eyes did not widen in fear, nor did his voice tremble. He simply lifted his head higher, looking out over the gathered rulers. If this is your choice, he said, then know this. You may silence me, but you will not silence my people. Humanity will remember. The words carried a weight greater than any weapon. Even those who supported the sentence felt a shiver. But the council did not waver. Guards of the chamber moved forward, tall figures of silver armor. They surrounded Daniel, their steps echoing in the silence. Daniel did not resist. He did not plead. He stood tall, his eyes clear, his shoulders straight. The guards carried out the sentence swiftly, and in moments the speaking circle was empty once more. Only the echo of his final words seemed to remain in the vast chamber. The council resumed its session, though the air felt heavier, strained. Some envoys avoided looking at the empty circle. Others whispered quietly, wondering if the judgment had been too harsh. A few felt unease, as if the death of one human envoy might bring consequences far beyond the chamber walls. Far away, in the hidden corners of the galaxy, messengers rushed to carry the news. Ships of light and shadow cut across the stars, their engines burning as they sped toward Earth. On each ship rested the weight of a single truth: the envoy of humanity had been executed by order of the Galactic Council. And so the seed of storm was planted. For the Council, it was a verdict meant to secure order. But for humanity, it would be remembered as an insult that could never be forgiven. The chamber returned to silence, yet the galaxy had changed. A single act, carried out in pride and fear, had set the path of history onto a darker road. Daniel's face, calm even in his final breath, would be remembered by his people. His words, spoken without trembling, would echo across the stars. And though the council believed the matter closed, the story of the human envoy had only just begun. The message reached Earth faster than anyone expected. A council courier ship, bound by protocol, delivered the official report. No word was hidden. No fact was softened. The envoy of Earth, Daniel, had been declared guilty by the Galactic Council and executed before the gathered rulers of 100 worlds. The leaders of Earth read the report in silence. The Council of Nations gathered in a great hall beneath the mountains, a place built for moments of great importance. Around the table sat men and women chosen not for wealth or power but for the trust of their people. In front of them, on a simple screen, glowed the final words Daniel had spoken: "You may silence me, but you will not silence my people." Humanity will remember. For a long time no one spoke. The air was heavy with grief and anger. Some lowered their heads, others clenched their hands, but all of them felt the same fire building inside. It was the oldest among them who finally broke the silence. Her voice was quiet but steady. The council has made its choice. They believed Daniel's words were arrogance. They believed we would bow our heads. They do not understand who we are. A younger leader leaned forward, his face set with resolve. We gave them peace. We gave them honesty. And they answered with death. They think Earth is weak because we have only one world. They think we will break because they sit on thrones of power. They are wrong. Another voice rose from across the table. What do we do now? Do we send another envoy? Do we appeal to those who may listen? The question hung in the air. It was possible to plead, possible to wait, possible to hope for mercy. But hope, at that moment, seemed hollow. The council had shown not mercy but disdain. The oldest leader spoke again, her gaze sweeping the table. Daniel's death is not a wound. It is a mark. A mark upon every one of us. We cannot beg for what should never have been taken. We cannot wait for those who see us as lesser. We must act. Her words opened the path. Around the table, voices grew stronger. Plans were laid, not for peace but for resolve. A choice was made, not of desperation but of pride. The leaders of Earth stood together and gave the order that had been whispered of only in theory, never spoken aloud. The Annihilation Protocol. It was not a single weapon. It was not a single fleet. It was a declaration, a unity of purpose, a plan woven through decades of preparation. Humanity had always known the stars could be both wonder and danger. They had prepared quietly, building not only ships of trade but ships of defense, not only tools of peace but tools of war. They had studied, learned, and waited. Now that waiting was over. The order spread across Earth and into the colonies scattered on nearby moons and planets. Factories changed their rhythm, pouring out machines and weapons in silence. Shipyards lit up with fire and sparks as vessels of war rose from dry docks. Hidden stations deep in asteroid fields powered to life, their engines glowing as fleets assembled. But it was not only machines that stirred. It was people. From cities, villages, and space stations, humanity answered the call. Pilots stepped forward to fly the new ships. Engineers left their families to keep the great engines burning. Soldiers, scientists, and explorers stood shoulder to shoulder, united by a single cause. There was no cheering, no songs of victory. There was only silence, steady and unbroken. Humanity did not rise with celebration. They rose with purpose. Meanwhile, the first signals left Earth. Across the galaxy, on every channel and every frequency, a message was sent. It carried no threats, no wasted words. Only a simple declaration written in the language of every known species. This is Earth. The envoy Daniel has been executed by order of the Galactic Council. His words remain. You may silence one voice, but you will not silence humanity. We do not accept this verdict. We do not accept this insult. The Annihilation Protocol has begun. The message traveled on beams of light, through jump relays, across wormholes, and into the depths of space. Worlds listened. Fleets intercepted the signal. Entire civilizations paused to hear the human voice. Some felt shock, some felt fear, and some felt a strange stirring of respect. For humanity, there was no turning back. The path was set. They had not asked for war, but they would not accept chains. The galaxy had expected grief and silence. Instead, it found a people who stood taller, their resolve sharper than steel. On Earth, the great hall beneath the mountains grew quiet again. The leaders sat together, watching the message travel into the stars. No one spoke of doubt. No one spoke of fear. They had chosen, and their choice was clear. Far above, the night sky was bright with stars. To the people of Earth, those stars no longer looked distant and cold. They looked close, waiting, as if they knew change had come. And in the heart of humanity, a single promise burned: Daniel's sacrifice would not be forgotten. His words would not be buried. The galaxy would learn that humanity was not a voice to be silenced but a force to be reckoned with. While the galaxy debated, Earth moved in silence. The declaration of the Annihilation Protocol was not an empty phrase. It was a signal that unlocked hidden plans, secret projects, and designs kept safe for decades. From the heart of the Sol system to the furthest colonies, humanity began to prepare for what must come. Factories that once built ships for trade now worked without rest, forging frames of steel for vessels of war. The sound of machines filled the air, echoing through orbital stations and moon bases. Sparks flew from forges as new alloys stronger than anything known before were hammered into plates. Entire cities turned their power toward construction. On Mars, great shipyards rose like forests of metal. Skeletons of battleships stretched across the red horizon, their spines glowing under the hands of engineers. The people there worked with quiet determination, knowing each beam and panel was a step toward survival. On Earth's moon, silos opened, revealing weapons stored in secret for years. Crews moved in silence, activating systems that had never before been tested in battle. Humanity's strength was not in the number of worlds they controlled but in unity. While older empires argued among themselves, humans spoke with one voice. Every nation, every colony, every settlement obeyed the call. No one questioned. No one delayed. Yet to outside eyes, little seemed to change. Alien scouts who passed near the Sol system reported only the usual signals, the usual traffic of ships. They saw no great fleets moving, no open displays of power. To them, Earth appeared calm, even fragile. But beneath the silence, a storm was gathering. In hidden stations buried deep within asteroid belts, engineers tested new engines capable of bending space more sharply than any known design. Vessels equipped with these drives could appear and vanish before enemy sensors could react. In laboratories under the oceans of Earth, scientists guided machines that shaped weapons from raw energy, weapons that did not burn with fire but bent gravity itself. Even ordinary citizens became part of the quiet armament. Farmers turned over fields to supply food for fleets. Students trained in simulators to guide drones. Families sent letters to soldiers, reminding them that they carried not just weapons but the pride of an entire species. The silence of Earth was not weakness. It was focus. The Council, however, was blind to this. Reports reached them from their spies, but they dismissed them. The humans are grieving, some said. They are building defenses, nothing more. Others believed Earth would never dare to strike at powers that had ruled the stars for centuries. To them, humanity's bold words were only noise, soon to fade. But there were some who were not so certain. In distant markets, traders whispered that Sol was closing its borders. In the shadows of forgotten stations, smugglers spoke of human ships vanishing into dark space. A few envoys remembered Daniel's calm face and wondered if humanity truly meant what it declared. Inside Earth's great command chamber, the leaders reviewed their progress. On vast displays, the growing fleets shone like sparks of light. Lines of warships, carriers, and smaller escort craft moved into hidden positions. Defenses around the Sol system grew thicker each day, a wall of fire waiting to be unleashed. A general, gray-haired and steady, spoke to the council. The council thinks we build only shields. Let them think so. When the time comes, our strength will not be shown in defense. It will be shown in how fast we strike. Another leader nodded. Speed is our weapon. They believe time is theirs, but time belongs to us. Every day we build stronger, every hour we learn faster. When they come, they will not face a child. They will face a storm. The room fell into silence once more, the same silence that filled every corner of Earth's effort. But it was not the silence of fear. It was the silence before thunder. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, rumors spread like drifting smoke. Some laughed at the thought of humans preparing for war. Others grew uneasy. A few watched the stars around Sol and wondered if the quiet light there burned brighter than before. Still, the council paid little attention. They believed their power was too vast to be challenged. They believed Earth's silence meant weakness. But silence can hide many things. It can hide sorrow. It can hide anger. and it can hide the making of a force strong enough to shake the stars. In the calm darkness of space, the new human fleets waited, their engines quiet, their weapons still. They did not need to show themselves yet. For humanity understood that patience was as powerful as fire. When the moment came, the galaxy would see not a whispering world but a rising storm. The Council did not expect the humans to act. Their fleets had watched the outer rim of Sol, believing Earth too young, too inexperienced, and too cautious to challenge centuries of galactic rule. Their scouts reported normal traffic, routine movements, and quiet systems. They saw no signs of the growing storm. Then, it began. A council fleet, massive and confident, entered the edge of human territory. The ships were built for intimidation. Their hulls gleamed with reflective metal, their weapons long and deadly. They moved in formation, expecting a weak world to surrender or bow in fear. They did not. Earth sensors, however, had already detected the fleet. They had watched the Council move for weeks, studied every maneuver, and prepared in silence. On Earth, the command chamber remained calm. Screens lit up with information about every ship, every path, every energy pulse. Yet no alarm was raised. Humanity had prepared for this moment for years. The first strike was precise. Without warning, the human fleet accelerated. Ships equipped with advanced engines bent space around them, appearing suddenly among the Council vessels. Smaller crafts moved with impossible speed, dodging weapons that were meant to destroy slower targets. The Council fleet's formation, confident and perfect, collapsed under the unexpected attack. Human weapons were not ordinary. Gravity pulses warped the Council's hulls, tearing through metal like paper. Energy beams struck with unerring precision, disabling engines and communications in an instant. Some ships were crushed by devices that altered space around them, shrinking them as if they had been caught in a trap. No human ship was lost in the first wave. Every strike was calculated, every move rehearsed, every target chosen to maximize impact while minimizing risk. The Council commanders were stunned. They had expected fear, not a sudden storm of calculated destruction. They had expected retreat, not the precise coordination of a species they considered new and weak. Messages flew across the fleet, commands given and ignored. The humans had anticipated every move. From Earth, Daniel's words echoed in the minds of the commanders. His voice was gone, but his spirit remained. You may silence me, but you will not silence my people. That spirit had guided every decision, every strategy, and every attack. Some of the Council's younger captains tried to organize a counterattack. They fired massive cannons, but human shields absorbed the energy and redirected it harmlessly into space. Their missiles were intercepted mid-flight, captured by fields that bent their path away from human vessels. Each attempt to strike back was met with calm efficiency, leaving the Council fleet in chaos. In the center of the battle, a Council admiral realized the truth. Humanity had grown faster than anyone had imagined. They had learned from every conflict on their own world. They had studied the tactics of other species and improved upon them. What the Council saw as a young species was, in reality, a force tempered by centuries of struggle, sharpened by adversity, and unified like no other. The first wave of attacks ended quickly. Several Council ships had been destroyed entirely. Communications among their fleet were fragmented. Fear began to creep into their ranks. Even the strongest commanders felt the weight of unexpected loss. On Earth, the fleet did not celebrate. Their work was far from finished. They moved with careful coordination, preparing for the next phase. Every destroyed Council ship was noted and analyzed. Every tactical advantage gained was stored for future battles. Humanity had acted, but they were not reckless. They were deliberate. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other species watched in silence. Some were shocked by the speed and precision of the human strike. Others whispered in fear, questioning if they had underestimated this small world. Traders, spies, and scouts spread rumors of a fleet that could strike without warning, a force that moved like lightning, and a people who refused to be silent. The Council, once untouchable, now faced a new reality. Their arrogance had been broken in hours, their confidence shattered by a species they had dismissed as insignificant. The Outer Rim, which had seemed secure, now felt vulnerable. The galaxy had seen the first proof that humanity would not yield, that their silence was a trap, and that their patience was a weapon as powerful as any cannon. And so, in the quiet of space after the first battle, the human fleet held formation. They did not cheer, they did not boast. They simply waited, engines humming softly, weapons ready, their eyes set on the stars ahead. Humanity had shown what it could do, but this was only the beginning. The galaxy would remember this day as the moment the storm of Earth began. The first battle had ended, but the shock waves of humanity's strike spread far beyond the edge of the Sol system. Worlds across the galaxy paused to hear the reports. The Council had thought Earth weak and silent, but now they had seen the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was a storm. Some species began to question the Council openly. In trading stations and orbital cities, whispers spread. Did we underestimate them? Traders asked one another. How could a single world strike with such precision? Others debated quietly in council chambers. Young races, those who had watched humanity grow but never challenged it, wondered if they should change their alliances. If the council could be broken so easily, who else was vulnerable? Some decided it was wiser to prepare to join humanity rather than resist them. On Earth, leaders monitored the shifting response across the galaxy. Every report of unease or fear was noted, analyzed, and stored. Humanity did not seek unnecessary conflict, but they understood that the moment of influence had arrived. They had shown strength, and now the galaxy would see that weakness was no longer an option. In distant systems, the Council struggled to maintain order. Their fleets had been scattered, their authority questioned. Some commanders refused to follow old protocols, unsure if they still held the right to command. Others hesitated to act, afraid that any movement might invite the precision of the human fleet once more. News of the first strike reached distant planets in hours. Scholars, soldiers, and politicians listened with disbelief. Some said the humans must have had secret allies, hidden technology, or help from unknown civilizations. Yet when their investigations failed to reveal any, they realized the truth: humans had grown on their own, through determination, learning, and unity. In one remote star system, a council ambassador spoke quietly to a group of envoys. If a single world can act with such skill, what hope do we have against them if they choose to act again? Their voice trembled not from fear alone, but from the sudden awareness that the balance of power had changed. Even within the council itself, doubt crept in. Younger members questioned the wisdom of their elders. The Valen Empire, once confident in their strength, found themselves under scrutiny by their own leaders. If one young species could destroy fleets, what other unknown dangers existed? Their arrogance, built over centuries, began to crumble. On Earth, the human leaders did not seek to punish or humiliate. They sought only to claim their place in the galaxy. Messages were sent to neighboring systems, offering partnership and alliance. They did not demand obedience, but they did not ask for permission. Humanity was no longer a silent observer. Humanity was a player, one whose actions carried weight far beyond the Sol system. Meanwhile, ordinary humans continued their work. Engineers improved engines, scientists refined weapons, and pilots trained tirelessly. They knew the galaxy was watching. Every move had meaning, and humanity was determined to meet the expectations they had set for themselves. Daniel's spirit guided them, a reminder that courage and resolve could change the course of history. Some species, however, reacted with fear rather than reflection. Small fleets retreated to fortified worlds. Trade routes shifted to avoid solution. Entire planets reconsidered their political alliances. Even distant colonies began sending secret messages to Earth, offering assistance or requesting guidance. The galaxy was learning that one young species could no longer be ignored. The Council tried to respond, but their words carried less weight than before. Commands were questioned. Plans were delayed. The image of authority they had relied on for centuries began to crack. Humanity had not yet attacked the core worlds of the Council, yet the mere demonstration of their power had reshaped the perception of all who watched. In the quiet of the human command center, leaders reviewed maps of the galaxy. Lines of communication, fleets, and trade routes were marked. They did not rush to conquer, but they prepared to influence. Every system that had underestimated them was now a system to be observed carefully. Humanity would act with wisdom as well as strength. The galaxy was shifting. Alliances wavered. Powers that had seemed eternal now appeared fragile. And at the center of this change was one small world, united, determined, and unafraid. Earth had shown the galaxy its first wave of strength, and the message was clear: the humans were not to be silenced. They would rise, and all civilizations would see that a single world, when united, could challenge the stars themselves. The galaxy had changed. Once confident empires now questioned their strength. Fleets were no longer symbols of fear, they were reminders of vulnerability. The Council had underestimated humanity, and that miscalculation would not be forgotten. From Earth, the human fleet moved steadily, not with reckless aggression, but with clear purpose. Ships of every size, built with care and precision, formed an unbroken chain through space. The engines hummed softly, and weapons systems glowed faintly, ready to respond, yet restrained. Humanity did not need to strike again to show its power. Presence alone was enough. Reports came from systems near and far. Many had already chosen to observe rather than oppose. Traders, scientists, and envoys whispered of a single world that had risen so quickly that even the Council trembled. Some worlds had secretly offered support, others requested guidance. Humanity had become the center of attention across the stars. In the Council's chambers, the old image of authority lay in ruins. Discussions that once held absolute weight were now questioned. Even the Valens, proud and strong, admitted privately that the humans' rise could not be ignored. Fear mingled with respect. The galaxy had learned that arrogance toward humanity was dangerous. On Earth, leaders gathered in the same hall where Daniel's death had first been mourned. Screens displayed maps of fleets, trade routes, and council worlds. Each leader knew that the next move must be deliberate. Humanity had proven strength, but true power lay in wisdom and restraint. One of the youngest leaders spoke softly. "We have shown them our strength. They now know Earth is no ordinary world. But what comes next?" The oldest leader, her eyes steady, replied, "What comes next is not conquest. What comes next is order. We will no longer be silenced." We will no longer be ignored. Humanity will stand as an equal in the galaxy, not by fear alone, but by example, by unity, and by resolve. Orders were given. Ships positioned themselves around key council systems, not to attack, but to observe and maintain control if needed. Humanity's presence became a reminder of what could happen if they were underestimated. Every move was calculated to demonstrate power without unnecessary destruction. In the hearts of humans across the stars, Daniel's legacy lived on. His calm courage had inspired not just the fleet, but every citizen who had contributed to the effort. His sacrifice became a symbol of unity and determination. The memory of one man had grown into the strength of an entire species. Meanwhile, envoys from other worlds began arriving at Earth. They came not to challenge but to witness, to negotiate, and to learn. The humans did not seek to dominate these visitors, but they did demand respect. They were no longer a young species hidden among the stars. They were visible, powerful, and unyielding. The Council, faced with this new reality, had little choice. The core worlds, once untouchable, now sat behind barriers of observation and calculated deterrence. Meetings of the Council were conducted with caution. Every decision now considered humanity's potential actions. No envoy dared speak disrespectfully without fear of consequences. Humanity's new position was not built on fear alone. It was built on unity. The species had acted together when others expected hesitation. They had combined courage, knowledge, and strategy to achieve a place among the galaxy's greatest powers. And though some worlds still resisted, most began to recognize that cooperation with Earth was now the wisest path. In the quiet of space, the human fleet remained ready, a silent promise to all who would watch. They did not need to fight further to prove themselves. Their earlier victories, combined with discipline and foresight, had reshaped the galaxy's understanding of power. Humans had risen from one planet to a force that demanded attention and respect. At the command center on Earth, leaders looked to the stars. "We have fulfilled the vow," one said quietly. Daniel's words are no longer just words. They are our reality. Humanity will not be silenced. The oldest leader nodded. "We do not rule by fear. We lead by presence, by knowledge, and by strength. The Council has learned what happens when they mistake us for weak. The galaxy will remember this moment. Humanity has arrived." And so, the humans stood tall among the stars. One world, united, patient, and relentless, had risen from silence to power. The galaxy had witnessed the birth of a new era. No envoy would be executed without consequence again. No species would underestimate humanity again. Earth had claimed its place, not as a subject of the stars, but as a guiding force among them. The storm that had begun with a single envoy's courage now shaped the destiny of the galaxy. Humanity had not sought domination. They had sought respect. And in achieving it, they had rewritten the rules of the stars.